All right, everybody. Cinephile Mike is here, and it is episode 21 of Oscar Rewind Season 2, my bi weekly series of videos dropping every Tuesday and Friday, where I revisit the films that reflect the work of this past year's Oscar nominees and winners. I dig deep into those IMDb profiles, and my hope is that you will discover a new, older favorite, or maybe revisit something you haven't seen in a while. As always, I'll be discussing the Oscar connection, the awards history for the film, box office information, critical response, and most importantly, these reviews are spoiler free. So, before we dive in, do me a favor, click that subscribe button, like the video. You're going to want to really keep up with everything that's coming up on Rewind this season. We're really just getting into it. And with that, it is May, it is Actor Month. I am looking at the earlier work of this past year's nominated Best Lead and Supporting Performances. And today, we're going to look and slightly address what many considered was the biggest upset this season and look at the 1990 drama thriller Paramount Pictures' Ghost. Written by Bruce Joel Rubin and directed by Jerry Zucker, Ghost was released 35 years ago in the summer of 1990. Now, by the end of its successful box office run, the film had made $217,631,306, and it was just domestically in 1990. So if you were to look at that with inflation, you're talking $500,000. And while it wasn't released internationally originally in the intervening 35 years, the film has had several international re-releases, which has added an additional 288,072,251 to that 212 million, which means right now the film sits with a total worldwide take of $505,703,557. Not accounting for inflation, not too bad. Ratings wise, the film is certified fresh on both sides with a 75% critical score from 81 reviews and a slightly higher 80% popcorn meter from over 250,000 audience reviews. And given the popularity of this film, yes, we know why Ghost is here. We've all probably heard of this one, whether or not you've seen it. Miss Demi Moore, featured in this photo right here, what received her first Oscar nomination after a very long career this year for the body horror amaze fest. That was The Substance, and still consider that upset with Honora, given that she won pretty much every award this season. Now, as for Ghosts award season, it was fairly successful with a lot of recognition, not for more, but for one of the other players in this film. Ghost capped off its season winning 2 of its 5 Oscar nominations. It was nominated for Best Picture, Best Editing, and Best Score, and its wins were for Best Original Screenplay for Bruce Joel Rubin and Best Supporting Actress for the one and only Miss Whoopi Goldberg, an award she would also win at the BAFTAs and the Golden Globes. Ghost had 3 additional BAFTA nods for Best Makeup, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Visual Effects, as well as Golden Globe nods for Best Actor and Actress in a Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy. Yeah, for those that know this film, I don't get that either. For the late, great Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore, respectively, as well as Best Picture, Musical, or Comedy. And again, not sure why. And also, in addition to other various film festivals and award circuits, it was named Favorite Dramatic Motion Picture of the Year at the People's Choice Awards. See, the people knew what this film was, maybe not so much the Hollywood foreign press. Well, we're not going to get into the legitimacy of the Golden Globes. We know that's a hot button issue. All right, so I know many of you have probably seen Ghost. So I'm not really going to introduce anything to you. But you know what? There's always a few followers out there that maybe have not actually seen this film. So I'm going to be really careful not to ruin it. So what is this about? Simply put, Ghost is the story of young couple Sam, played by Swayze, and Molly, played by Moore. They have just purchased their dream loft apartment in New York City, where Sam works in banking and Molly works as an artist. Now, they are frequently joined by their BFF and Sam's coworker, albeit Sam is kind of his supervisor in a way. They never really express that. Carl, played by Tony Goldwyn. Now, life is good for this trio until one night, after viewing a dance performance on date night, Sam and Molly are walking home when Sam is attacked by a mugger in an alley. Now, Sam runs after the mugger, can't seem to catch him. When he turns around, even scarier, he sees Molly screaming and crying over his dead, bleeding out body. Then he sees a bright, inviting light, but turns away from it. And, through investigation, he learns that he is, in fact, dead and has remained here as a ghost. So now we do some quick time jumps. And after his funeral, Molly spends a lot of her time sitting around the apartment, is very depressed. She's lost the love of her life. Sam is trying to find a way to communicate with her, but obviously, as a ghost, not very simple to do. So he sits and, I guess you could say, haunts his apartment day after day. One day, after all of this, Carl comes over and tries to, be the good friend, shake Molly out of her funk, take her out for lunch. Sam stays behind, and wouldn't you know it, as soon as he does, someone breaks into their apartment. And Sam realizes that this is the same mugger that killed him. He follows him from the apartment and learns that his name is Willie Lopez. Willie Lopez in the film, played by Rick Aviles. And through overhearing one side of a phone call, learns that his mugging was not random, but he was actually a target. But by who? Through a series of events, he will encounter a psychic, Oda Mae Brown, played by Goldberg, who is actually the first person who is able to hear Sam speak to her, like having a normal conversation. Begrudgingly, more so on Oda Mae's part, Sam uses Oda Mae to try and communicate with Molly about everything that is happening, everything going on, trying to solve this mystery of what happened to him. And as Sam begins to piece things together, he will see that there's actually a whole web of deceit surrounding his attack and death and these events, and he will have to learn how to communicate to make sure that the innocent are safe and informed and the guilty pay for what they have done. And this will not be so easy, given that he can't touch or say anything except through Oda Mae, who also maybe not as upfront as she seems to be. I kind of have to leave it there. Look, I'm going to say, for its time, Ghost is a visually stunning film with a really well developed script that keeps you wondering how things will play out as it goes, up to that last frame over its just over 2 hour runtime. Now, even if you haven't seen this film, there are many scenes or images that are so ingrained in pop culture that you can't escape them. Like, have you seen the scene with Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore molding clay set to an Everly Brothers song? Yeah, we all know that scene. I have to say, each character gives a truly lived in performance. And the amazing thing, even though they don't get a lot of the time in the film communicating with one another, given that he's dead, Swayze and Moore, I have to say, their chemistry could power a backup generator. It is so incredible. The two of them are wonderful together in this. Goldberg is a comedic delight, with all of her pen stealing swagger. Yes, I said pen stealing. You'll either know why or see why. She really is the bright light in the film, and I have to say, Ruben was very clever in the screenplay because there are times when this film gets dark and heavy, but that's kind of when Goldberg comes in and almost makes it seem like a different film, but she is this bright, vibrant presence that really delivers. And one thing I left out of my summary, and this is where I say, the darker stuff. On Sam's journey to discover how to communicate, he meets a ghost on a subway played by Vincent Schiavelli. Now, I remember seeing this movie in either 1990 or 91 when I was 10 or 11 years old. And Schiavelli as that ghost, the subway ghost. I don't know if I'm alone. He scared the crap out of me. I think it was a few years before I could actually watch that film again. I scared very easily up until an age that I'm probably too embarrassed to admit, despite my love of horror films. And it started not that long after I saw Ghost. But, this one was just at that formative year. And I was like, no. But his over the top performance now, for me, all these years later, is one of the highlights of the film. And he really delivers a lot in just two scenes. Also, as I said, I want to go back. The visuals are really amazing. Some of the more stylized images, especially when we see our two pathways to heaven and hell, are very uniquely presented, and some of the dramatic, like there are several death scenes in the film that are shot quite fascinating in a fascinating manner. And also the cinematography, you know what? Yeah, I would be remiss. Cinematographer Adam Greenberg really captures the New York City of the late 80s, early 90s, and makes it another supporting player with the bustling street scenes and the gorgeous loft apartments that go for millions and millions of dollars today that we all want. And, look, she wasn't like a brand new star at this point. I didn't know her from her Brat Pack days with those films that had come out prior to this, St. Elmo's Fire and the like. But I remember after seeing Ghost, I prioritized seeing films of hers. Ghost is an excellent performance, and there are other performances she's had that are great, some that are questionable, some that are delightfully bizarre and guilty pleasures. And yes, I am probably embarrassed to admit I have watched Striptease and Disclosure probably more often than I should admit to. But look, she is a force and continues to be. And I can only hope that with all of the wonderful attention that she has gotten around the substance, we start to see a lot more frequent work from her. She doesn't work that frequently. So, when we get her, it's like, yes, there she is. In all, Ghost is a solid 4-star film for me. It really is a beautiful love story, and while some elements of the film may not age exceptionally well, the film has stood the test of time, is worthy of where it is in the pantheon of great films. Now, if you would like to watch Ghost, if you haven't seen it, it is currently streaming on Paramount Plus. So, there you have it. Hope you liked my thoughts on Ghost. We're getting to the end of Actor Month, but we do have a few more on the horizon. As always, please again subscribe to the channel if you like what you heard here. Like the video, share the video, get people into the conversation. You can follow me, Cinephile Mike, on all social media platforms and on Letterboxd, and find lots of great additional content on my website, cinephilemike.com. All right, everybody, until next time, this is Cinephile Mike saying take a break and watch something new.